Today I want to bring a breakdown to you of the Hillary Clinton email scandal as it appears that it is coming to a close. I want to break down exactly what's going on, exactly what happened, and why it is such an absolute travesty of justice. During the Benghazi hearings, it came to public light that Hillary Clinton was using a private email server in order to correspond in a professional capacity and a personal capacity. Not only was it one server, but it was multiple devices, multiple physical servers that were knowingly and intentionally set up by and for Hillary Clinton in order to communicate via email. Oftentimes, numerous classified and other documents being sent back and forth. Hillary Clinton will tell you that she didn't do anything wrong, she was working in her professional capacity, but we've actually seen that that is not the case. Not only that, but we also see intent in her behavior and her actions of why she was doing it. It was to hide exactly what she was doing and keep her correspondence private. Why? Well, because she's a criminal. So let's take a look at a couple of clips of Hillary revealing her intent and lying about the situation as a whole.
Right next to Mrs. Clinton. Really? In fact, Paul's home videos picked up Mrs. Clinton, saying she had stopped using email messages for fear investigators would get their hands on them.
As much as I've been investigating all of that, why?
Right, yeah.
But why would I ever want to do email?
No,
can you imagine?
No.
This clip is one of many instances where Hillary Clinton provides a motivation factor. Being motivated in order to operate in a clandestine and secret manner in order to avoid public scrutiny for all of the different things that she does, which many of us know are very underhanded, oftentimes illegal, and at the very minimum, corrupt.
Arguments.
You're saying that the FBI believes that you tried to wipe the entire server. Did you try to wipe the entire, so that there'd be no email, no personal, no official, wipe the whole thing?
Well, my personal emails are my personal business, right? So we went through a painstaking process and turned over 55,000 pages of anything we thought could be work-related. Under the law, that decision is made by the official. I was the official. I made those decisions. And as I just said, over 1,200 of the emails have already been deemed not work-related. Now, all I can tell you is, in retrospect, if I'd used a government account and I had said, let's release everything, let's let everybody in America see what I did for 4 years, we would have the same arguments. So that's all I can say. I'm not, I have no idea. That's why we turned it over.
You were in charge of it. You were the official in charge. Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something?
I don't know.
Well,
you know how it works digitally. Did you try to wipe the whole server?
I don't know how it works digitally at all. I do not have any.
You did not try.
Ed, I know you want to make a point, and I can just repeat what I have said.
It's a simple
in order to be as cooperative as possible, we have turned over the server. They can do whatever they want to with the server to figure out what's there, what's not there. That's for the people investigating it to try to figure out. But we turned over everything that was work-related, every single thing. Personal stuff, we did not. I had no obligation to do so and did not.
All right.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Hillary Clinton has spent a lot of time and effort and press attention in lying and trying to cover up everything that's gone on with her email server. Well, that all got put to an end as soon as the Romanian hacker Guccifer breached her private server.
Hillary Clinton suffered a surprising loss in the Indiana primary, and now she faces more troubling news. We have a Fox News exclusive. The man who says he exposed her use of a private email account for government business is talking. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge tonight with a jailhouse interview and what it could mean for the ongoing FBI investigation of Clinton.
The Romanian hacker accused of breaching the personal email accounts of Washington's elite, including former Secretary of State Colin Powell and a member of the Bush family, told Fox News in an exclusive jailhouse telephone interview that he also compromised Hillary Clinton's personal server. 44-year-old Marcel Lahel Lazar, who goes by the moniker Guccifer, claimed it happened in early 2013.
You accessed a lot of accounts, Marcel.
Yeah.
Was the Clinton server easy or hard?
No, for me, what is it? For me, for everybody.
Lazar was extradited to the U.S. from Romania last month to face trial in Alexandria, Virginia for cybercrimes. One of his alleged victims is longtime Clinton aide Sidney Blumenthal. After researching his target, Lazar told Fox he accessed the account by correctly guessing Blumenthal's security question. Then he sent content from the account to the media and for the first time publicly exposed the Clinton email address.
This is a classic old-school attack, and it's not an attack that works against well-defended systems.
Once inside Blumenthal's AOL account, Lazar said he gathered information about the Clinton server's IP address, a unique numeric code like a phone number or home address.
How many times did you access the Clinton server, Marcel?
I say like twice. For me, it was not like the Hillary Clinton server. It was like an email server she and others were using with political boring stuff.
A second cybersecurity expert said Lazar's story is plausible and of interest to FBI investigators.
If a little Romanian country boy can get into this, then it means that this thing could have been gotten into by anybody.
And in the process of identifying the server's vulnerabilities, Lazar said he came across evidence that others were there.
There was some others up to them, like IPs from other parts of the world. You see the numbers only, but you can tell by the numbers the region of the world.
While Lazar's claims cannot be independently verified, 3 computer security specialists told Fox the Clinton server, now in FBI hands, may have an electronic trail that would confirm or disprove his claims.
Unfortunately, in this community, a lot of people make up stories, and it's hard to know what's really true until you get into the forensics information and get hard facts.
This week, Mrs. Clinton was asked about security.
Any indication that your private server was hacked by foreign hackers?
No, not at all. In March, the New York Times reported the Clinton server security logs showed no evidence of a breach, but cyber experts warn good hackers can cover their tracks. There was no immediate response from the Clinton campaign tonight, and the FBI offered no on-the-record statement. Chris.
Catherine, thank you.
So why is it that Guccifer is important in all of this? Well, he blew the doors wide open. This is now third-party corroboration that her server was indeed private, and it was indeed breachable and had been breached by maybe not just this guy, but by multiple people. There have been sources in Russia that have also stated that they have had access to Hillary Clinton's server as well. So this is a big deal because this is a little bit harder to cover up. So what do? Well, they extradite him to the United States. Well, why would they do that? They just want to ask him some questions and figure out what was on the server, right? That's what any normal person would say. Well, I don't think so. I would guess, and I would almost guarantee that they have him over here to find out what he knows so that they can cover it up. They can silence him either using threats of violence, which is a very well-known and very widely used tactic with our government, or they could even pay the guy off, or threaten him with jail time. A lot of different ways that they can silence this guy. So I think that it is an elaborate ruse in order to shut this guy up so that they can easily and quietly and with as little fallout as possible sweep the entire crime of Hillary Clinton and her abuse of classified information right under the rug. So the FBI is handling the quote-unquote investigation into Hillary Clinton's email use, right? Well, now we need to look at Loretta Lynch. Loretta Lynch is the Attorney General of the United States, the highest level prosecutor of the land. So if there were, in fact, to be any type of charges or punishment handed down, it would be up to Loretta Lynch and the oversight of her department. So why is this important? Well, let's take a look at Loretta Lynch's past. Lo and behold, Loretta Lynch was appointed in 1999 by President Bill Clinton to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. So during this time, Loretta Lynch was to handle the case against HSBC Bank, laundering trillions of dollars of terror money, drug trafficking money, the works. And guess what their punishment was? Well, gosh, they were required to pay $1.9 billion. Nobody did any jail time, nobody was personally held accountable, and that ended up equating to about 5 weeks worth of profit for the bank. So these people are evading taxes, trafficking narcotics money, terror money, and just the works. This is just the absolute highest levels of corruption that we see. And now guess what? She's the Attorney General, the one that would be in charge of prosecuting Hillary Clinton if that came to light. So just think about that real quick. Think about it. Hillary Clinton's husband, Bill Clinton, appointed this woman, and now she's the Attorney General. Well, why is that important?
Back here at home here in Phoenix in a very interesting meeting on the tarmac at Sky Harbor International Airport, as ABC 15 has confirmed, former President Bill Clinton was in town and met up with U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch as she was arriving in Phoenix. Now, this meeting took place just hours before the release of the Benghazi report, so we asked her about it.
I did see President Clinton at the Phoenix airport as I was leaving, and he spoke to myself and my husband on the plane. Our conversation was a great deal about his grandchildren. It was primarily social and about our travels. He mentioned the golf he played in Phoenix.
It doesn't end there. We're told the private meeting on board her plane lasted about a half hour. Lynch then told us there was no discussion of Benghazi, of State Department emails involving Hillary Clinton, or any current matter having to do with her office, Dan.
So we are being led to believe that they just kind of hung out and talked about grandkids and, had a great time together and talked about a little bit of golf. Well, I don't think so. If any of you know the Clintons and the Clintons' history, you will know that they have a huge, huge history of trading favors for power, favors for this, favors for that. So we're supposed to believe that they just got on that plane together. The person that is investigating Hillary Clinton's and think that they did not mention the email scandal or the case at all. Number one, this was a private meeting, totally private. The media was not allowed to be anywhere near that plane when this was happening, and we're supposed to believe that Bill Clinton didn't go in there to figure out a way to, get that favor paid back from Loretta Lynch, right? Because he was the one that got her started on her, now political career, right? So this is just the total MO of the Clinton administration, the Clinton machine, the corruption machine. We are seeing it play out right in front of us. So this is just another working cog in this entire problem that we have here. This corruption goes all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. And guess what? Even people in the liberal media are sick of it. Take a look at this next clip here, and just keep in mind, this is from MSNBC. They're supposed to be the absolute leftist allies in this situation, right? They're supposed to tell us that, oh, it's just another Hillary Clinton witch hunt, and it's just don't worry about it. It's just Republicans attacking Hillary. She hasn't done anything wrong. She said it. She said that she hasn't done anything wrong, so of course she didn't. So take a look at this clip. Look at the disgust and bewilderment on their faces. It is insanity.
Look at the big picture of the situation with Hillary Clinton. You got to have an attorney general who's right down the
absolutely
fair,
yeah.
kind of like
impartial, sort of an Elliot Ness type.
Word that comes to mind. It's important, It's
critical,
right? So this morning there are questions about what could have been discussed during a private meeting between former President Bill Clinton.
Mike's laughing. I mean, you can't make this up.
And Attorney General Loretta Lynch yesterday?
You can't make this up.
No. I'm sorry, it happened on Tuesday. The face-to-face claim came as the Justice Department investigates Hillary's use of a private email server as Secretary of State. The Attorney General says the meeting with the former president was unplanned and that she and Bill Clinton never discussed the email investigation. We're told the two just happened to be at the Phoenix airport at the same time when the former president boarded her plane.
What's the word, Joe? Optics?
Boy, this is beyond optics. This is unbelievable. This is
the good news is it gives Rush Limbaugh material for 3 hours today. It gives him a lot to talk about.
He's not going to have to research
to
that.
specifically sit down and meet with her and talk about.
She's the Democratic Attorney General. He's a former Democratic president. Perfectly reasonable to talk, except under these circumstances.
There is no way you let him come on your
Not under
plane
these circumstances.
and talk privately. There is no way.
No, because of the question that Mark posed a few minutes ago. We don't know what's going on with the investigation yet. We just don't know.
Yeah, and it's her decision, you know. I mean, she shouldn't have let him on the plane. He shouldn't have wanted to get on the plane. I understand they're friends. They have a lot to talk about.
No.
No.
It's a great, exciting
nothing
thing.
else
The
to
two
talk
private
about but
planes,
the
the
one thing.
serendipity.
There's
Yeah, just
Willie.
So they're both at the Phoenix airport,
Yeah.
separate planes. He hears that she's about to arrive. She's doing something about community policing in Phoenix. He holds his
I
plane
love
and says, I need to go
community
visit
policing.
with the Attorney General. And he did. The report they give is that he wanted to talk to her about community policing and what's happening.
Of course he did.
What's happening in Phoenix. So he held his plane to go talk to her about that. Now, that shouldn't have happened on either side. I think Attorney General Lynch has shown herself to be a pretty solid Attorney General at this point, so I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she won't be corrupted by one conversation with Bill Clinton, but it shouldn't have happened.
Do you really think they were talking about community?
No, I don't.
It goes back to that when she wanted to have her private server. I don't understand how it could possibly be that no one traveling with either the Attorney General or the former president wouldn't have said, this is a bad idea.
You can't have private
I
server.
agree.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
Even in my little world in a congressional office, if I ever suggested anything along those lines, I would have 12 people jumping up yelling at me.
Bad idea. Congressman, don't do
Bad
it.
idea. Stay away. And there were several times, you know, and that's the question. Where? First of all, both these two people showed the most extraordinarily bad judgment. And where was their staff?
This is on DOJ, though.
Where
This
was?
is on
Yeah.
Justice.
Who was on the plane with Lynch to say you cannot do this?
I don't think she needs anyone to tell her that it's not a good idea. This is so obvious, right? I mean, and they didn't talk about it?
I bet you they didn't talk about it.
Come on, stop. Everybody stop. Okay, well, this is why this is never going to be a problem for Hillary Clinton. People are too afraid to talk about the truth and the fact that this was wrong from the get-go. And it wasn't allowed, as she says. It just wasn't.
I agree with that, and I agree she shouldn't have gotten on the plane, but, I mean...
Coming up.
So now that we've seen that Bill Clinton met with the Attorney General, let's break down everything that the FBI said in their public statement. Let's just look at how high and how obscene this corruption really goes.
Looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
So the FBI says no criminal charges, no evidence, even though all of the evidence is completely wide out in the open. Don't you find that a little bit coincidental that Loretta Lynch just met with Bill Clinton, and then a few days later, this is what they find? I don't think so. Let's keep going along here.
All the cases prosecuted involved some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information or vast quantities of information exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct or indications of disloyalty to the United States or efforts to obstruct justice.
So we already know that her purpose for setting up this email server to begin with was to obstruct justice so that she could get out of the public eye, get out of having her shady dealings being brought to light. There absolutely was intent, and he also says that it has to be a large amount. There's hundreds and hundreds of emails of classified documentation. There doesn't need to be intent. There does not need to be intent, and that is ridiculous that he would even say that.
We do not see those things here. To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences.
So this is basically what he's saying. He is saying that Hillary Clinton is above the law, and if it was anybody else, they would have the book thrown at them. This is the world that we live in. If you have money, and if you have power, and you're connected to the right people, you can do whatever the hell you want, and nobody will ever hold you accountable, including people that have a long history of criminal, egregious activity like Hillary.
To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that's not what we're deciding now. As a result, although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case. I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
I don't understand how a man can stand there and lie to millions of people all over the world like you just did. We know that there was outside influence. Are you kidding me? This is the Clinton political machine, and this is the person that they are planning to put into office as our president. They're above the law. They cannot be prosecuted, just like the banks, right, Loretta? Too big to jail.
I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State. After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the matter to the Department of Justice for a prosecutive decision.
Again, it goes right back to Loretta Lynch, who is in the pocket of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Disgusting.
And second, I have not coordinated this statement or reviewed it in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say.
So he's basically saying, move along here, people. Nothing to see. There's no conspiracy here. And if you think otherwise, well, then you're just a tinfoil hat Looney Tunes guy, because guess what? We always tell the truth. We never lie. We're the government, and we're here to help.
But I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work in this case. Once you have a better sense of how much we have done, you will understand why I am so grateful and so proud of their work.
So a little bit later in this presentation, I'm going to go over exactly who the FBI are and exactly what they like to do. He's sitting here doing what they normally do. They pat themselves on the back and talk about what a wonderful and great job that they're doing. But yeah, stay tuned toward the end here, and you're going to see a little bit more on the corruption of the FBI.
So first, what we have done. This investigation began as a referral from the Intelligence Community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State. The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way.
So keep that in mind. Either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way. That's the focus of this investigation. Nothing else. It's all about whether or not she mishandled classified documentation and information, which is a huge, huge felony, which I'm going to catch up with you on a little bit later in this video as well.
Or a second statute, making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities.
So we already know that she knowingly removed that information from the appropriate systems of storage, right? She's using this information on a private, independently located email server. So keep that in mind as well as we move forward here.
Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
So he would like us to believe that using multiple mobile devices, multiple unsecured, non-government sanctioned email servers all over the world is not a crime. That's what he would like us to believe here. He's just basically spitting right in our faces.
As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways. Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible of the ways in which personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking, requiring thousands of hours of effort. For example, when one of Secretary Clinton's servers was decommissioned in 2013, the email software was removed. That didn't remove the email content, but it was like removing the frame from a huge unfinished jigsaw puzzle and then dumping all the pieces on the floor. The effect was that millions of email fragments ended up in the server's unused or slack space. We searched through all of it to understand what was there and what parts of the puzzle we could put back together again.
So notice how he says decommissioned. So she had multiple email servers, and then, they went ahead and decided to wipe those and uninstall the programs. If you were just going to decommission an email server, would you really go throughout all the trouble of, uninstalling the platform that the email was used on? I mean, would you really go through all of that trouble if you were not intentionally trying to get rid of that information?
FBI investigators also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails that Secretary Clinton provided to the State Department in 2014. Where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information, the FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received. And that's the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification.
So that is some damning testimony from this guy, right? 110 classified email chains, 8 top secret chains, 36 secret chains, and 8 confidential chains. That's an email chain, where people are going back and forth and replying back and forth. So this was going over her private server knowingly. That's really damning, if you ask me. If this was anybody else, they would be getting sailed down the river right now. So for this guy to say, "Oh yeah, we didn't find anything," nobody would prosecute this. That's just ridiculous. It's crazy that he's saying this stuff to us, and everybody is buying it. So let's go on a little bit further because it gets worse.
Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received. The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to State in 2014.
So that last statement was damning. That shows that everything that Hillary Clinton has been saying about her emails and how she turned everything over, anything that was work-related we turned over, was a bold-faced lie. And it also shows intent to destroy evidence. right? So they found thousands and thousands of emails that were work-related, confidential emails that she was trying to hide.
We found those emails in a variety of ways. Some have been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on servers or devices that have been connected to the private email domain. Others we found by reviewing the archived government accounts of people who'd been government employees at the same time as Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies, folks with whom a Secretary of State might normally correspond. This helped us recover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 that were produced to State. Still others we recovered from that painstaking review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the slack space of the server that was decommissioned in 2013.
So based on that statement, we now know that there absolutely was intent. She was purposely deleting them, purposely trying to get rid of physical server evidence, and yet no charges should be filed. Nobody would ever think of, charging her with anything, right?
With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced to the State Department, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level and 2 at the confidential level. There were no additional top-secret emails found, and finally, none of those we found have since been upclassified. I should add here that we found no evidence that any of the additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them in some way. Our assessment is that, like many email users, Secretary Clinton periodically deleted emails, or emails were purged from her system when devices were changed.
Don't you think it's interesting that this guy and his department would be able to see the motive there where, oh, you know what, it's just the benefit of the doubt. She would just, routinely delete all those classified and top secret emails that, have to do with matters of national security, right? I'm so glad that he was able to come up on stage and tell the entire world that, no wrongdoing. Yeah, just normal stuff in the Hillary Clinton camp.
Because she was not using a government account or even a commercial account like Gmail, there was no archiving at all of her emails. So it's not surprising that we discovered emails that were not on Secretary Clinton's system in 2014 when she produced those 30,000-some emails to State.
So guess what? That in itself is a crime, Mr. FBI man. All government employees are required to keep archives. They have different regulations for different departments and all that. I'm not an expert on it. But even me, as a layman watching this video, can see that you're full of crap. You absolutely have to archive. As a matter of fact, most civilians that are operating businesses also have to archive their emails. So just lackadaisical deleting of emails is absolutely not okay. And that should be punished at the least. So it's just funny that this guy keeps talking about all this nonsense here, expecting us to just say, oh yeah, nothing's wrong here. No. There's so many crimes on so many different levels that it is absurd that you're sitting here expecting us to believe that there are no charges to be pressed.
It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014. The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all of her emails as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information, and they used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 that were remaining on her system at the end of 2014. It's highly likely that their search missed some work-related emails and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server. It's also likely that there are other work-related emails that they did not produce to State and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone because they deleted all emails they did not produce to State, and the lawyers then cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery.
So they went through, searched through all the emails, which they can't find them. Who knows where they all are, right? Because those were just deleted, right? I mean, just delete it. If you don't think that there's evidence in there, just delete it. That's the way that works. It's just insanity that we're seeing this on the public stage. And you know what's even worse is most people are just going to buy into this. They're just going to look at this on the surface and go, well, phew, finally Hillary's over that. I'm with her. It's just insanity that he's sitting here telling us that there are no charges to be laid and all of this criminal behavior. So she had a group of attorneys sifting through her emails. They didn't read them. They just sifted through them to make sure there wasn't anything incriminating in there before they sent it over. And so now there's this big hunt trying to find all of these missing emails. That is not the way it's supposed to work. That is why you are supposed to use official email systems, because things are supposed to be archived. I don't understand why anybody is not seeing this. That is a huge problem.
I want to talk to you about this because obviously Director Comey has decided not to, or in fact saying that no reasonable prosecutor would recommend that this case would go forward against Hillary Clinton. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it would be unreasonable for a prosecutor not to go forward with it, and almost an abdication of duty. What Elizabeth just laid out under 18 U.S.C. Section 793 is what we would call a no-brainer back in the U.S. Attorney's Office that Jim Comey belonged to. He was one of my assistants. It does not require intent. It just requires gross negligence. He said during his long statement that she was extremely careless. The first definition of gross negligence that comes up if you take out the legal dictionary is being extremely careless.
Yeah, and that's the problem. People at home want to know, what is this distinction? Is it a distinction without a difference? Because a lot of people hear this. I mean, we're both former prosecutors.
Sure.
Why wouldn't it go forward?
Well, the minute you say someone is extremely careless, you are saying they're grossly negligent. That is what a judge will charge a jury.
Mm-hmm.
The judge will charge a jury, has the government proven that she was extremely careless? What do we mean by gross negligence? We mean extremely careless. Regular negligence is not using the proper degree of care under the circumstances.
Sure.
Gross negligence is being extremely careless in exercising your responsibilities. That's what Jim Comey found. He then just didn't come to the conclusion that it's a violation of the statute. He came to the other conclusion. I think that's why he walked out. There's no way to square the two things.
Isn't that interesting? Because he was potentially going to take questions.
Well,
People were waiting, and he left.
That's the first question that would have been asked. Second question would have been, would she pass an FBI background check for top security clearance?
Right.
The answer is no.
No.
She couldn't possibly. Well, I've read 1,000 FBI background checks, maybe 2,000. This would get thrown right in the ash can. I mean, she wouldn't be, the number 35 person at the State Department. We wouldn't hire her as an assistant U.S. attorney with this record.
Yes, she would fail the background check based on the standards that have been used for years and years.
Based on what he said.
People.
If you took his report and made it an FBI background check, she couldn't get any kind of sensitive job with the government of the United States.
So I'm not the only one that thinks that this is absolutely abhorrent and absolutely corruption at the highest levels. She couldn't even pass an FBI background check with her behavior. And so now we're supposed to elect her as the President of the United States? So now that we've heard what the FBI has to say, we kind of know what's going on. They're, giving her a pass. Now we know who's supposed to be prosecuting her. Now let's take a little bit of a look at the FBI and what an absolute corrupt outfit that they truly are. When the general public looks at the FBI, they think that they're an investigative outfit. They work for the federal government and on the benefit of the people, on behalf of the people. But little do most people know that the FBI is one of the most corrupt alphabet agencies in the land. Matter of fact, the vast majority of all of their little terror cases, all of the different plots that they say that they end up busting, are actually perpetrated by the FBI. They create the patsy. They create the perpetrator. They create the scenario. They take advantage of people, and they force them into things that they normally would not do. They do all kinds of corrupt things on a regular level. So every time you see an FBI press conference talking about how they did just a great job stopping another terror plot or they busted somebody else, 9 out of 10 times, you know that they created the situation. They encouraged somebody, used money against them, threatened them, whatever else they do. It's all underhanded. We only see things from the surface. However, the information is out there, and we can definitely see that they do indeed create the plots that they are busting, much like this situation with Hillary's emails. They are able to sit there and tell us whatever we want to hear and pretend that everything is all hunky-dory and doing just fine. So let's take a quick look at a video here about the FBI's history of creating domestic terrorists.
Drone terrorist cell were arrested as they tried to buy AK-47 and M16 assault weapons.
Since the September 11th attacks, there have been over 500 people prosecuted for terrorism-related offenses. And this is a number that sounds really big, and it makes it sound like Americans are being kept safe from terrorism attacks. But we found that in a lot of these cases, people were prosecuted who never would have committed a terrorist act in the first place if it weren't for the involvement of the FBI.
While Dowd is charged with attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction, it was a plot largely engineered by the FBI, during which the teenager is accused of taking the bait.
The theory behind some of these cases is that these people are terrorists in waiting. If the FBI hadn't shown up and taken them down the path of committing this terrorist act, Al-Qaeda would instead. But we don't have evidence of that actually happening.
What this means is that American Muslim communities are being treated as suspect, that law enforcement approach them not just as partners in countering terrorism or providing information about potential terrorist attacks, but as places where terrorism could be bred.
Firdas was arrested Wednesday after undercover federal agents posing as al-Qaeda members delivered materials he allegedly requested.
One interesting case is the case of a man named Rezwan Firdas. His mental health was deteriorating significantly during the time that the FBI was investigating him. It deteriorated to the point that his father had to quit work to look after him. That didn't stop the FBI from pursuing a case by sending an informant in to work with Firdas and eventually help him develop a plot to attack the U.S. Capitol building.
These were not individuals who were ever planning on their own to actually conduct terrorist activities. They were individuals who were vulnerable to being recruited. They're young men, an 18-year-old. They're people with mental illness, schizophrenia. They're people who are susceptible because they want money and they could be bribed.
The prosecution of 4 men from Newburgh, New York is really emblematic of a lot of the human rights violations we've seen in federal terrorism prosecutions around the country. These men were vulnerable, they needed money, and they were lured in.
Their plan is they're going to create 2 backpacks of bombs, and then they have 2 Stinger anti-aircraft missiles. Hussein was going to provide all the materials and the money, whatever they wanted.
Automatically, I knew this whole thing was manufactured.
The Newburgh sting is an example of what the FBI is up to these days. The FBI sent an informant named Shahed Hussein to hang out in mosques in upstate New York and look for terrorists.
The informants in a lot of the cases that we looked at are people who are in trouble, and law enforcement gives them the option. Do you want to help us nab someone else, or do you yourself want to be put in prison? And so they need to find a terrorist. They need to turn these people.
The idea that there is a terrorist group that would have found criminals so incompetent as these to become terrorists is ridiculous.
In the Newburgh 4 case, the informant is saying, well, why don't you do a terrorist attack? James Cromedy says, I'm not that interested, essentially. What changes is when the informant offers money, $250,000. And James Cromedy is desperate. He's lost his job at Walmart. So that offer of money changes things for him. And he's able to loop in 3 other men who are similarly desperate.
You're taking 4 people who have never committed an act of terrorism before, who have no political aspirations, no means to commit the crime, no access to terrorists to help them commit the crime, no access to the money to buy the weapons, not even access to cars to get to the sites of potential attack.
Because these individuals are being convicted of terrorism offenses, their sentences are dramatically increased, at least 17 years added, sometimes 20 years added. And in some of the cases, that means a lifetime of solitary confinement or a lifetime of restrictions on their ability to communicate with their families.
The idea that law enforcement should do anything and everything to prevent the risk of a terrorist attack means that there are people locked up in federal prisons right now who probably shouldn't be, people who are serving very long sentences who probably shouldn't be, families that have been torn apart, and communities around this country who live in fear.
So now you know what the FBI is up to. So now you know that the FBI cannot be trusted. What does that mean? It means that anytime they say something or do something, they need to be questioned. At any time you personally get involved with the FBI, you got to know what's coming to you, because they are the creators of these situations. So if they are creating all of these different terrorist situations, which I'm not saying these ones in particular were, but doesn't let you think that, maybe they might have something to do with it. If they're willing to create all of these terror situations, and they're willing to go up on stage and completely lie to us about everything that had to do with Hillary Clinton's email server, what else do we need to question? So let's go ahead and move on a little bit here, and I want to talk about a few other cases that have taken place that are kind of similar to Hillary Clinton's case. So let's take a look at what happens if you mishandle classified information and you are not Bill or Hillary Clinton. This young man here took a picture of a submarine engine, took a picture of it, and then tried to delete it. Sounds a little bit similar to Hillary Clinton, right? Except she had, 30,000 emails that she tried to delete, physical servers that she tried to delete, tons of classified information, all the way from top secret to just classified. And yet, there's no reason anybody could see prosecuting her. However, this poor young man is now going to be facing 30 years in prison. 30 years in prison for taking a photo of a submarine engine. Just think about that. Now, if you remember David Petraeus, he was the CIA director. He pled guilty to mishandling classified materials. He got 2 years probation, fined $100K, and was encouraged to step down. Of course, he, is also stripped of his confidential security clearance and all of that good stuff. So it just goes to show that there are multiple instances of people doing many levels of smaller breaches than what Hillary Clinton did, and she's going to walk scot-free. Let's take a look at another friend of the Clintons. So here we have another one, but this time it was Bill Clinton who pardoned a CIA director for private server use. On Friday, August 20th, 1999, then director of the CIA, George Tenet, announced he had suspended the security clearance of previous director, John M. Deutsch, for storing classified information on a private server at his home. On January 20th, 2001, as one of his last acts as president, Bill Clinton granted Deutsch a presidential pardon, sparing him the prospect of a criminal conviction. The pardon of Mr. Deutsch spares the former spy director any criminal charges for mishandling secret information on his home computer. Mr. Deutsch, who resigned in 1996, has already had his security clearance stripped. So don't you find that interesting? If you happen to be involved with the Clintons, you are just untouchable. You just get to walk scot-free. You get to do whatever you want, break any rules, break any laws that you want, and you just walk away scot-free. Nobody's going to prosecute you. And we're seeing that again today. And here we have yet another example of somebody mishandling classified material. A naval reservist was sentenced for mishandling classified materials. A federal attorney announced Wednesday that Brian Nishimura of Folsom, California, pleaded guilty to the unauthorized removal and retention of classified materials. Nishimura, deployed in Afghanistan in 2007 and 2008 as a regional engineer, admitted to downloading classified briefings and digital records onto his personal electronic devices. Sound familiar? He carried the materials off base and brought them back to the U.S. when his deployment ended. An FBI search of Nishimura's home turned up classified materials, but did not reveal evidence he intended to distribute them. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and a $7,500 fine and was ordered to surrender his security clearance. He's barred from seeking a future security clearance. So does that sound familiar to you? He had classified information at his home, on his private devices, and was stripped of all security clearances. So even at the minimum, let's say that Hillary Clinton does not get charge, right? Which we know is not going to happen. At the very slightest, at the very least, she should be stripped of her security clearance, meaning she should not be the President of the United States of America. So what does all this mean in the end? It means that corruption and political criminals will continue moving forward, pulling the wool over the American people's eyes. Do as I say, not as I do. And President Obama is going to be on the campaign trail, campaigning for Hillary, using taxpayer dollars to fund his globetrotting in Air Force One. Have laws been broken? Yes. Have crimes been committed? Absolutely. And no one, except for the American people, are going to pay the price.